A knock in the night cold, desperate. Not the kind of sound you expect when you've made your life as far off the map as possible. The wind outside was howling so loud it sounded like it could rip the trees right out of the ground, and snow just kept coming, piling up against the windows of my cabin. I built this place myself, plank by plank, far away from everyone and everything. Peaceful, quiet, no one for miles, so when you hear someone at your door at midnight, well, your blood turns to ice long before you can even get up from your chair. Knock, knock. This time it was softer, like whoever was barely had the strength to keep going. I grabbed my flashlight, heart pounding, and cracked the door open, expecting anything, just not what I found. She looked like a ghost at first. Small, thin, maybe 13, 14 years old, dressed in rags that weren't even worthy of the word. Her skin was a pale, bruised violet, long tangled hair crusted with snow, feet bleeding into the drift. She stared up at me with these huge, glowing eyes, then just folded to the ground like a rag doll, out cold. Let me back up a sec. I'm not exactly the nurturing type. I've lived alone by choice, and I haven't cared for much except keeping this place standing. But right then, I acted without thinking. Hauled her inside, wrapped her in the warmest blanket I owned, put her by the fire, and tried to get her to drink some water. Her pulse was weak, hands shaking so bad I could hardly keep the mug steady. You might think I should have called someone, reported it, but trust me, nobody comes this deep into the woods. And anyway, what would I have silent alien girls on my floor, half frozen, half dead, needs help? I could tell right away she wasn't from here, not in... The news always talked about visitors from other planets, ships landing at big spaceports. But this was different. This was just a lost kid, scared and broken, showing up on the one doorstep nobody ever found. She woke after a while, mumbled something I didn't understand, flinched every time I moved closer. I kept my voice low, kept my hands where she could see them, said, "You're safe here," over and over, like maybe if I believed it hard enough, she would too. When I gave her soup, she ate like she'd never tasted food before, then curled up on the floor and slept so deep I kept checking she was breathing. That night, I sat up beside her, fire throwing shadows on the walls, thinking about the bruises on her arms and the cuts on her feet. Somebody had done this to her. Somebody out there thought they could just toss her away. And now she knocked on my door. When morning came, I cooked breakfast real slow, letting the smell drift toward her. She woke up wild-eyed, but when I offered her bread, she took it, looked at me like she expected me to snatch it back. We didn't speak the same language, so I pointed at myself. "Ethan." She hesitated, then tried to eat. "Close enough." When I pointed at her, she hugged herself, eyes dropping, wouldn't say a word. So I drew pictures. Little stick figures, a house, a tree, her with big glowing eyes. She finally whispered a word that sounded like Liera, and I wrote it down, gave her a small, tired smile. "You're safe, Liera," I said. "No more running." But, peace like that never lasts. For days, she barely moved from the fire. She jumped at every sound, flinched when I brought her new blankets, wouldn't look me in the eye. The scars on her wrists told their own story, deep, old, like she'd been chained. That hurt me more than I'd like to admit. I started sketching little things to make her laugh, left bread and fruit within reach, never pushed, just let her get used to the idea of being somewhere safe. Some nights, she would grab my sleeve as I tried to leave, not saying a word but begging me to stay with that Luke, so I'd sit by the fire until she fell asleep, blanket pulled up to her chin like armor. On the fourth night, the world outside changed. There was this hum, low and strange, not from any storm. The sky glowed with unnatural lights, drifting, searching. I barely had time to lock the door before there was a pounding, not like Hersa hard, mechanical fist demanding entrance. A voice called through the wall, metallic cold. "We are looking for a unit, female, escaped. Give her to us." You ever have a moment when every cell in your body tells you to lie? I did. "No one here but me." I called back and hit the button on my old defense rig. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, the door shook but held. "You protect a product that does not belong to you," that thing shouted. "She's not a product, she's a person," I yelled, voice shaking. After a pause, they said, "You have made an enemy. We will return." I waited until the lights faded, then opened the trapdoor where Liera hid, shivering. "Gone," she whispered. "For now." I nodded, pulling her close. She told me, voice shaking, "They hurt many, not just me." I promised she was safe, but I didn't believe it. Not really. You know what I mean? The world changes quick when you open your door to a stranger. Days passed. Liera learned some words: safe, warm, blanket. She laughed once at the flashlight, the beam flickering like magic. I lived for that sound. But the fear never fully left her. Then, one morning, she looked at me, eyes haunted. "I can go, if I'm a problem." That cut deeper than any knife. "You're not a problem," I said, kneeling by her side. "You're healing. You belong here." I showed her an old wooden star, cracked and glued, that my father gave me. "Not perfect," I told her, "but still shines." She held it, traced the crack, maybe thinking about her own scars. "I want you to stay," I said. "You're family now." She let her head rest on my shoulder, tears soaking into my shirt. "Don't know how," she whispered. "You'll learn," I promised. One step at a time. That's when she started opening up, telling me her real name, or as close as I could get, sharing stories of her planet, singing a song in a language I'd never heard, voice trembling but strong. She let me help brush her hair, let me teach her to sew, even started sitting at the table for meals. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living. Sometimes I'd catch her outside, head tipped back, letting snowflakes land on her face, eyes closed free for just a moment. But peace is always borrowed time. One night the power flickered, not from the storm. Signals, movement outside. I shoved her into the basement again, just like before. This time, when a knock came, I opened the door. 3 armored figures stood there. "Return the asset," they ordered. "She is government property." I stood tall. "She's not property." She knocked on my door. "My responsibility now." The leader raised a weapon. "This is not your battle, human." I felt fear, but didn't move. "It is now." Behind me, a quiet voice spoke. "I'm not hiding anymore." Liera stepped forward, brave, steady. "You erased my name, but I remembered it. You took my freedom, but I found it again. I will never go back." The aliens paused, then lowered their weapon. "If she speaks for herself, the law allows self-declaration. But your name is struck from record. You have no place." She stood tall. "Then I'll make one here." And just like that, they turned, vanished into the storm. Back inside, she looked at me, tears in her eyes. "Can I stay?" she whispered. I squeezed her hand, never letting go. "You said once this wasn't just a house," she said. "Now it's a home. And maybe that's what family really isn't, who you're born to, but who opens their door when you're lost in the storm, who refuses to give you up, even when the world comes knocking." So now I'm asking you, after all this, who gets to decide who belongs? The ones with the chains, or the ones with the courage to break them? You tell me. Would you open your door? Would you fight for someone who isn't yours to lose? Let me know down in the comments, because sometimes the right side of history is just a matter of answering the knock.